This video is brought to you by Captivating History. Spain saw early human habitation of both Homo sapiens and Neanderthals and their predecessors. Indeed, one flint tool found in Spain dates back 1.4 million years. Our modern ancestors turned up on the Iberian Peninsula about 37,000 years ago. The earliest known people to settle in Spain were various groups, which the Greeks named Iberians. Then, at about 1200 BCE, the Celts migrated into Spain as they spread throughout Western Europe. Through mutual influence and intermarriage, a Celt-Iberian culture emerged in the peninsula. The most well-known Celt-Iberian group was the Tartessos, who built an impressive culture around Seville at about 1000 BCE. The Celtic Iberians did not maintain formidable military power. Therefore, other cultures settled in the area and extended their influence throughout the peninsula. First came the Phoenicians and the Greeks. However, most consequentially, Carthage created colonies in the area. The most important amongst them, Cartagena, was literally named New Carthage. Soon, Carthage was entangled in a life-or-death struggle with the Roman Republic. The two Punic Wars saw Spain become heavily involved in the biggest war the Mediterranean had ever seen up to that point. Then, in the Second War, the legendary general Hannibal left his home in Spain and crossed the Alps to invade Italy. The Romans defeated Carthage and eventually burned it to the ground. One of the Carthaginian territories they conquered was the Iberian Peninsula. At first, the province of Hispania was the site of countless rebellions against Roman authority, but eventually it became fully Romanized. Spanish is considered a Romance language, as it originates from Latin, the language spoken by the Western Roman Empire. The cultural influence of the Roman years, spanning from the 2nd century BCE to the 5th century AD, was tremendous. Some of the most remarkable figures in Roman history, such as Emperor Marcus Aurelius and the poet Seneca, hail from the area. By the 5th century, the western portion of the Roman Empire was in freefall. Migration and immigration of Germanic tribes were chief among the causes of that collapse. Some of those tribes soon entered the power vacuum in Iberia and made it their home. First, the peninsula was divided between the Vandals in Andalusia and the Suebi in the Galatian region. However, by 410 AD, the Visigoths emerged as the significant power in Spain. They made their capital in Toledo and ruled for 300 years. While most people imagine the Visigoths as ruthless barbarians, this is inaccurate. By the time they became a power in Iberia, they were steeped in Roman culture and maintained much of the character of Hispania. They also oversaw the conversion of the population to Catholicism, a system of belief the majority of the population of Spain maintains to the present day. In the 6th century, Islam began its remarkable spread through vast tracts of Asia and Africa. In 711, an Islamic Berber-led army invaded Spain, soon defeating the last Visigoth king and taking control of Spain. It took 3 centuries, but Islam transformed Spain as the majority of the population converted to Islam. However, the Muslim leaders began to lose their grip on the country in the Middle Ages. Warfare between Muslims and Christians became incessant. Finally, the tide turned in favor of the increasingly strong Catholic principalities in central and northern Spain. In 1492, the last Islamic kingdom fell, and the process called the Reconquista was completed. Amongst the ugliest consequences of the new religious system was the expulsion of the Jewish population from Spain. While Jews were considered friendly to the former Muslim rulers, the new Catholic rule did not agree. Jews were given a choice to convert to the Catholic faith or leave the country. Muslim residents faced a similar choice later on. The most powerful amongst the new Catholic-ruled territories was the Kingdom of Castile. As they took increasingly large chunks of territory, their version of the local language took root. The rules of the kingdom replaced Latin with their vernacular. Thus, today we refer to the Castilian dialect as Spanish. The more minor Catalan kingdom solidified control over the eastern portion of the country. They replaced Latin with their language, which is still spoken in Barcelona and its environs. The most significant political rival to the Castilians was the Kingdom of Aragon. Still, the marriage of Isabella I of Castile and King Ferdinand II of Aragon united the two houses, setting Spain on the path to becoming a dominant global power. Equally influential in this regard was the discovery of America by explorer Christopher Columbus. Though the famed navigator was Italian, he worked for the Spanish crown and claimed the territory for Ferdinand and Isabella. As they called it, the New World became a seemingly endless supply of gold and land for the United Spanish Kingdom. However, its conquest involved mass genocide of the indigenous population and the destruction of entire civilizations such as the Mayans and Incas. While expanding its massive empire across the Atlantic, Ferdinand and Isabella also cemented Spanish power in Europe. They strategically married their son Juan with the Habsburg dynasty. The union would create a united Austrian-Spanish kingdom of great power and influence. In 1516, Charles I became the first Habsburg king of Spain. The 17th century was a golden age for Spanish culture. At this time, the Habsburg dynasty comprised enthusiastic patrons of the arts, and it showed. Local composers led the way in shaping Renaissance music and laying the groundwork for what we call classical music. However, the highest accomplishment of the Golden Age was, without a doubt, Don Quixote de la Mancha, the masterwork by Miguel de Cervantes. The narrative has since been labeled the first modern novel and towered above the literature of the period. Paradoxically, the Spanish Empire began its steep decline during this cultural apex. The defeat of the Spanish Armada in 1588 saw the English and their Royal Navy take control of the sea, and with it the lucrative trade routes and access to colonial riches. It would slowly lose its vast empire, which was liquidated in 1824 through a rebellion led by Simon Bolivar. However, the independent Latin American countries maintained strong cultural links to their homeland. As its coffers dwindled, the increasingly bitter rivalry between the Habsburg and France repeatedly bankrupted the dynasty. The Protestant Reformation posed new problems for the Habsburgs. Some of their European holdings, most notably the Netherlands, rejected Catholicism and fought for independence. The opportunistic French supported them in their rebellion against the Habsburgs. The French managed to place a Bourbon king on the Spanish throne after winning the War of Spanish Succession. However, the French monarchy was overthrown in their revolution. Spain found itself fighting against the revolutionary French government. When Napoleon invaded the Iberian Peninsula during the war, he easily defeated their poorly trained military. However, he faced a popular insurrection, which brought the mighty Grande Armée to its knees. The war started as a campaign against Napoleon, but turned into the War of Spanish Independence. Ironically, it was the French Revolution that inspired the Spanish to draft their first modern constitution in 1812. However, in 1814, the British helped throw out the French and restored Ferdinand. For the next 120 years, Spain was unstable. It went back and forth between monarchy and republicanism and every variation between. In 1936, the endless ideological conflict came to a head as the country launched headlong into the Spanish Civil War. That war intersected with the grand ideological conflict dominating Europe at the time. The USSR, and to a lesser extent the liberal democracies, supported the Republican side. Meanwhile, Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy supported the nationalist side, which sought to restore the monarchy. The war was horrific. Pablo Picasso, one of the most influential artists in world history, captured the agony of the conflict. His 1937 painting, Guernica, stands as a universal emblem of the destruction of war. The nationalists won, and their leader, Francisco Franco, became the self-proclaimed caudillo of Spain. Though installed by the Axis powers, Franco avoided entanglement in World War II and the Cold War that soon followed it. However, internally, he oversaw massive violations of human rights against his political opponents. In 1975, Franco died and tried to pass on the dictatorship to Bourbon King Juan Carlos. However, instead of ruling as a caudillo, the king helped the country transition into a constitutional democracy. The newly established liberal democracy has faced its share of challenges, most notably Catalan and Basque separatism. However, it's generally maintained its stability and is today a valued member of the European Union and the international community. Its immense cultural legacy is reflected in the impact of its language. Today, 450 million people speak Spanish and pay tribute to the cultural importance of the Iberian Peninsula. To learn more about the history of Spain, check out our book, History of Spain, a captivating guide to Spanish history starting from Roman Hispania through the Visigoths. the Spanish Empire, the Bourbons, and the War of Spanish Independence to the present. It's available as an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. Also, grab your Mythology Bundle ebook for free while it's still available. All links are in the description. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.